It's Monday night, and we're sharpening our takes. You're tuned into The Cut, hosted by Thomas Roth.
What's going on, guys? It's Tom Roth over here at The Cut. Welcome into the latest edition of The Cut. It is May 5th in the year of our Lord 2025. Happy Cinco de Mayo to all of you out there celebrating. Why don't you go on down to Fire Chicken Sandwiches? They got some carne asada fries and they got some braised chicken, pollo, as they call it, and margaritas on deck. We all went today from my car dealership and got some Fire Chicken. It was delicious, so shout out to Jeremy and Bev and all the cooks down there at Fire Chicken for making a seamlessly easy experience to order and a great meal from these guys. Bev made sure that everything was written out for everybody, made sure that everybody's box was notated because everyone got different stuff. We didn't have to pick around, so we appreciate you guys very much. But I'm Tom Roth, and of course my producer, my main squeeze, my good time boy behind the camera, my rotten soldier, Anthony Aquendo back there. Thank you, Anthony, for always producing. Let's get into a sponsor shout out tonight, and that is going to be Cracked Repair, everybody. CrackedRepair.com, right, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
CrackedRepair.com, or you can visit Anthony in the Ashtabula Town Square, hit him up on Instagram, or give him a dial. CrackedRepair.com is going to give you a seamless experience in being able to get a quote on getting your electronic device repaired. Maybe you got a cracked iPhone 14 screen. You need that bad boy replaced so you can stop scratching your fingers up. You know what I mean? Our boy Anthony's going to be able to get that all taken care of for you. Seamless experience going in. Anthony will give you a quote. He'll give you an estimated time of delivery for the parts and an estimated time of completion. Get it all rocking and rolling for you. I've even seen him fix some HDMI ports for some video game systems, which is really nice. So, if you're in the market for a phone repair, or maybe you need a new device and you don't want to pay the outrageous price at the Verizon or AT&T store, you can always go to Cracked and see what Anthony's got in the inventory. I hear he's got some really good deals. You got any smoking deals right now, Anthony?
Yeah, I got a couple iPhones in stock. I got a couple Galaxies, and whatever you need, I can get it. So just hit me up.
Sick. Can you get me a Nintendo Switch?
I can make that. Yeah, actually, I have a Nintendo Switch in stock for you. I got an Xbox, got a PlayStation. Just come see what we got you.
But you won't take less than 115 for that Switch, right?
I think it's 130.
You ain't gonna take less than 130 for that, right?
Price is firm, dog.
So it ain't no $70 holler out the door, is it?
We price them to the market. We got great deals, all functional. We test them all before they go out the door.
That's right. No Android parts in that iPhone either, right?
Not one Android screw, nothing.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to be sure. All right, so crackedrepair.com or give Anthony a visit in the Ashtabula Town Square. We'll make sure that you're taken care of over there at Cracked. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to react to the NFL draft that happened over a week ago now. Last week we were going to do the show, and then some stuff happened. We had kids that are going to be running in the CVC championships. Then I had to work late. It was a whole thing, and we want to give you guys the best quality of show, so we aren't going to compromise anything. So getting into the NFL draft. Really crazy night. One of the wildest nights I can remember. One of the wildest weekends I can remember, actually, NFL draft-wise. Number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to the young man out of 3 different colleges. Started at Incarnate Word and HBCU, and then he transferred up to the Washington State Cougars. And then after spending a couple years with the Cougs, he went down to the Miami Hurricanes, showed out there, became Miami's all-time leading passer. Really had a great combine, great pro day, and the Tennessee Titans, despite drafting Will Levis just a couple of years ago, decided to pull the trigger and bring Cam Ward into Tennessee. And what's really cool about Cam Ward going to Tennessee is Cam Ward's worn number 1, and Warren number 1 was retired from the Titans for Mr. Warren Moon, a legendary quarterback, but Warren Moon came out during his introductory press conference for Cam Ward and presented him with a Ward number 1 jersey, unretiring the number 1 jersey that is so sacred to the Houston Oilers where Mr. Moon made his money. Tennessee owning the rights to all of that, and with the franchise history. And Cam Ward goes there, gets number 1, and we will see if he will be number 1 in Tennessee for the foreseeable future. I really like Cam Ward. I really like his arm strength. I really like his leadership qualities. I did dog walk Cam Ward a little bit during bowl season when he decided to not play in the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I caught a little bit of flack for that from friend of the show, Zach Wenchel. But at the time, I was really concerned because, this young man, he's hopped college to college to college and had a chance to show out in a bowl game, get Miami a bowl win, and cement himself even further in the annals of Miami Hurricane history, and he decided not to do that. And it really was a business move on his part, and I've grown to respect it, actually. Cam Ward did what was best for him. You see a lot of these guys now sit out bowl games that really aren't college football playoff games. Cam Ward didn't really have much more to prove. He solidified himself as the number 1 quarterback in the draft class by having a impressive collegiate career and being great in the combine and being great at his pro day. He did everything right. And by being drafted number 1 overall by a franchise, you are saying as a franchise that you believe this is the guy that can carry you into the foreseeable future and potentially win you a Super Bowl. Now, Tennessee has had a exodus of players in the past couple of years. We had King Derrick Henry leave. We've had A.J. Brown get traded from the Titans to the Philadelphia Eagles, who later subsequently won a championship with them this past year for a first-round pick. So Tennessee isn't long for a lot of players. But I think that with Brian Callahan coming over last year, the 2024-2025 season, become the young head coach that is an offensive wizard, he can go in there and revitalize the franchise. They've got really nice pieces around him in Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard for the run game. You also look Chig Okonkwo being their tight end, a very good tight end, very underutilized tight end in Tennessee. They also went out and added Tyler Lockett, former number 1 receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, who later kind of took more of a backseat role when DK Metcalf came in, and then took an even further backseat with the advent of Jackson Smith-Njigba, Mr. OHIO, big-time performer in the Rose Bowl against Utah a few years ago, came in. So Tyler Lockett really wasn't needed. Tyler Lockett goes over there, becomes a really great possession receiver, which is a young quarterback's best friend, the tight end and a possession receiver for the check downs, for the stretching the field over the middle. Those guys are going to be key for his success. And I think that Tennessee was cognizant of the shortcomings that they had recently and went out to rectify it and put the best position possible for their young franchise quarterback. Cam Ward, I think, was an out of the park, slam dunk pick for the Tennessee Titans. I heard rumors for a long time that Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter were in play, but wide receivers and defensive ends don't win you football games. They don't. Quarterbacks win football games for you. And a guy like Cam Ward, who is a mobile quarterback, who does have a strong arm, who has a strong release, is that guy that can potentially lead them, down the road more in a very competitive AFC South, where, he's going to be jockeying for position with a in-conference rival now who was picked number 2 overall in Mr. Travis Hunter. Now, Travis Hunter, the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft that was owned by the Cleveland Browns, the Browns did the most Browns thing possible and traded out of getting a generational talent in Travis Hunter, traded down to the 5th overall spot, got some draft capital, got a couple late round picks, a couple day 2 picks, but they also procured the 2026 round 1 pick from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, Travis Hunter gets brought in to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is coming off of an injury, and I was kind of confused about this pick. Very confused on why Jacksonville would come up and get Travis Hunter, because Travis Hunter going to a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, Jacksonville drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the 1st round last year. He came on and was the unquestioned wide receiver one, taking over Christian Kirk's spot, taking targets away from Evan Ingram, their prolific tight end. And now you're drafting a guy number 2 overall to be your number 2 receiver and potentially a slot corner. So you're not drafting the 1A receiver, you're drafting the number 2 receiver or the 1B. Neither of which is going to be the marquee player on your offense. I don't see Brian Thomas Jr. taking a back seat. And I also don't see the logic in Liam Cohen, the new head coach who came over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, doing anything to really solidify Travis Hunter as that number 1 player in his offense when he already has that alpha dog in Brian Thomas Jr. I'm going to be very interested to see if the advent of the BTJ emergence has Travis Hunter playing more corner and then lining up at receiver, or if he's going to be a receiver that lines up at corner every once in a while. It's going to be very interesting to see. I think that as we go into the season, it's very easy to project right now, as an armchair GM, armchair coach, how things play out, right? But we don't know the intricacies of Liam Cohen's offense that he's going to run in Jacksonville. We don't know if he has a plan to make Travis Hunter more of a utility player. Does Travis Hunter become a strict utility guy that lines up in the backfield, lines up in the H-back position, lines up in the slot, lines up on the outside on offense? What does he do? So I'm wondering, and if the chat can answer for me, I'd be really interested to see what you guys think. What is Travis Hunter's role going to be going forward in Jacksonville? How does a team trade up and give up so much draft capital for a guy that's not going to be your number 1 receiver and not going to be your number 1 corner? Because Jacksonville already locked up their number 1 corner for the next 4 years on their deal. Travis Hunter can absolutely transform a team. He can absolutely transform an offense. He can absolutely make an impact. But when I think of drafting a receiver at number 2, I think of a guy that's thought to be brought in to dynamically change that offense and be the focal point of the offense or the defense. I don't foresee Travis Hunter being that focal point any longer because you have a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. You also have a prolific corner, and his name escapes me right now, in Jacksonville. You're drafting the number 2 guy at both, that's going to be a number 2 guy at both positions in Jacksonville. And I think people are starting to see that too, because I'm a big fantasy football player, but I don't play traditional fantasy football with a redraft league. I play dynasty fantasy football. So in dynasty, what you end up doing is in your startup, you have a startup draft. So that's, you draft your team as normal. When you go into the next year, you don't redraft a team. You draft the rookies that are coming in that year. Travis Hunter has gone number 4 overall, and he dropped to number 12 in another league that I'm in. Now, granted, that league's a super flex where you can play 2 quarterbacks in your starting lineup. So you knew that a couple guys were going to fall, but I didn't foresee Travis Hunter falling to number 12 overall in a 12-team league in a dynasty draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Travis Hunter's role is going to be, especially when you have a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, who is so used to throwing to the tight end, who's so used to having his number 1 target. Trevor Lawrence is very much, in my opinion, a one-read quarterback. Is Travis Hunter going to be happy in Jacksonville? Is he going to play out the entirety of his rookie contract? He's got that 5th-year option. Will they decline the 5th-year option because he's not happy, and will he go somewhere else? Only time will tell. But I think that Jacksonville made a horrible investment going up to draft Travis Hunter, knowing that he's going to be the second option on both offense and defense compared to other players that they have in that locker room. You don't draft number 2 overall to be the next best guy. You draft number 2 overall to be the best guy. The top 2 picks in the draft are generally going to be your generational not generational, but your unquestioned starters, the face of your franchise. Jacksonville already has that in Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know how well that's going to work. Now, it's worked before. I harken back to the Arizona Cardinal days where Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden were both there. That was a very prolific time for the Arizona Cardinals franchise, especially having guys like Carson Palmer and Kurt Warner throwing to him. You had legit quarterbacks that were able to spread the ball out. Trevor Lawrence is absolutely a very good quarterback. I go as far to say he's probably top 15 in the league, but I'm not depending on Trevor Lawrence to win me games in a fourth quarter comeback. Sorry guys, I don't know what's going on tonight. I don't see Travis Hunter making the impact in Jacksonville that he would have made in Cleveland, unfortunately. But there's some great things that happened, despite me not liking the trade for the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns go out and they get the guy from Michigan, which I hate seeing, in Mason Graham. Mason Graham, defensive tackle. An absolute unit of a human being. And looking at all of his stats, watching him against Ohio State the past couple of years, the kid absolutely has it. The kid absolutely has all the tools to be a prolific defensive tackle in the NFL. I absolutely think that Mason Graham will be very good on the Cleveland Browns. He will absolutely free up lanes for Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett will free lanes up for him. It's going to be a very good problem to have in Cleveland because now you have Myles Garrett, Michael Hall Jr., will free lanes up for him. It's going to be a very good problem to have in Cleveland because now you have Myles Garrett, Michael Hall Jr., Mason Graham, and potentially Alex Wright as your starting defensive line. That is a very good defensive line in theory. Michael Hall was a second round pick out of Ohio State last offseason in the NFL draft. He had some domestic issues, which we never like to see, but it seems like those are rectified. It seems like he's made amends, and he is going to be full go for the Cleveland Browns this coming season, barring any sort of injury. So while I don't necessarily love the pick, I wish that the Browns would have went out and addressed the offensive tackle position with Kelvin Banks Jr. if you're trading down to 5 overall and Will Campbell's out of the picture, or Armand Membo would have been great too. I absolutely see why they did it. They get a guy to be on the defense. They get a guy who can be next to Myles Garrett for the next 5 years and absolutely wreak havoc in the AFC North, where running the football is the bread and butter of 3 out of the 4 teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers run the football. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely run the football. The Cleveland Browns run the football. The Cincinnati Bengals have tried to run the football, and they're getting a semblance of a run game right now in Chase Brown, but the Cincinnati Bengals are 100% a pass-first team because they had Joe Shiesty out there, Mr. Joe Burrow. I like, though, that the Cleveland Browns had the foresight to go out and acquire draft capital for next year. The Jacksonville Jaguars aren't going to be a prolific team next year, but I do think that they'll be improved. You potentially have 2 top 10 picks next year. You can angle to trade up and get the quarterback that you like, whether that's Arch Manning, if he comes out next year by some stretch of the imagination. I know the Manning family is stout in their stance that Arch will stay all 4 years and accrue the experience. But money talks, bullshit walks, right? Arch Manning could be a possibility. Drew Allar, the quarterback from Penn State, who I'm not absolutely enamored with, but I do think he has some tools. He's kind of a Josh Allen light. Could be a move to make as well if you are that in love with him and you want to trade up. Getting draft capital, especially for a team like the Cleveland Browns, who are going to be very cash strapped over the next 3-4 seasons, is paramount right now. And by doing that, the Browns realize that, hey, we have been able to manipulate the cap in such a way that the Deshaun Watson salary bonuses and salaries aren't affecting us in such a way right now. It's absolutely they're robbing Peter to pay Paul right now. The Reaper is going to come to collect, in a couple years. So I'm going to be very interested to see how the Browns navigate that. But by getting additional draft capital, they can kind of mitigate that and keep guys on those rookie deals, that fifth-year option in the first round at positions of impact. It's going to be very interesting to see. Andrew Berry is a very good general manager, in my opinion. I know he's whiffed on a few things, the Deshaun Watson trade being number one, but that, in my opinion, that was a little bit more Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam's come out and said as much, that he kind of forced the hand on that. I think that when you have owners that are as involved as Jimmy Haslam, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You have an owner that cares about his franchise and cares about winning and cares about getting the right people in there to do that. And Jimmy Haslam saw that in Deshaun Watson. He saw a guy that knew how to win. What Jimmy Haslam didn't foresee was all the problems that were going to come, and he didn't foresee that being out of the league that long with his injury and then his league-imposed suspension was going to have that much of a detriment on his $250 million quarterback. I don't think anyone can see that coming. And if you did see it coming, you're a genius. You're an absolute genius, because I never saw that coming. I thought Deshaun was going to come in and do great. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case. Now, do I resent Deshaun Watson? No. I had a whole podcast talking about how it was bullshit that these people were cheering for him when he got hurt, because that's his livelihood and he's a human being. Every human being deserves a second chance. Every human being deserves the ability to stand up there and say, what I did was wrong and I'm sorry about it. I need to be better going forward. But again, money talks, bullshit walks. But in this case, money is your words. You can say all the right things, you can smile the right way, but if you're not going to make the marked change, then it was all bullshit and all for naught. I don't necessarily think that's the case with Deshaun Watson, but at the same time, I recognize that Deshaun Watson is not the answer in Cleveland and probably will not suit up for the Browns this coming year, which he shouldn't. He needs to get back and he needs to rehab and he needs to do what's best for his career. And what's best for his career is to take this year off and allow the Browns to move on and find their answer at quarterback. And we're going to get into the Browns quarterback situation in just a moment here. But what I'd like to do before we get into the Browns quarterback situation, I need to pull this up on my phone real quick. I want to talk about a couple more players that I think were fantastic picks. So number 3 overall, the New York Giants. They miss out on Cam Ward. They miss out on Travis Hunter. So what do? They go out and they get the best defensive end in college football, Mr. Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter for Penn State, who wore number 11, which is Micah Parsons' number. Abdul Carter also went out and asked Lawrence Taylor to unretire his jersey, number 56. He said no. He went out and asked Phil Simms, who wore number 11 for the Giants for years, if he could wear his jersey. Phil Simms said yes. The family voted no. Abdul Carter's not allowed to wear number 11. They're making a lot about nothing with this kid wanting to have a jersey. He's trying to carry on a legacy. Lawrence Taylor being probably the most feared and best edge rusher in the history of the game. And then Phil Simms, number 11, his jersey that he had at Penn State, continuing that. Abdul Carter is the type of talent that comes around at defensive end once every 7 years. The last time we saw a guy that prolific come out of college was Myles Garrett. I think Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett are absolutely fantastic comparisons for each other for career trajectory. Abdul Carter is going to make a large impact on the Giants' defense. The Giants have been lacking a bit of a defensive identity for a few years now. And by going and grabbing a guy such as Abdul Carter, who can set the edge very well, he can stand up and be the outside linebacker, he can drop into coverage, he can do all these very versatile things at this body size right now. I think it behooves the New York Giants to allow him to play at this weight this year and see what they have, see if it's sustainable, or maybe they want him to put on a little bit of weight and be more of just an exclusive edge rusher, maybe a 3-tech player. I'm going to be very interested to see what the Giants do with him, because Brian Daboll, the coach of the Giants, is an offensive first head coach. Brian Daboll is a guy who values the quarterback, he values the offensive line, and he values the run game. And the Giants did address a lot of the holes that they had this offseason in free agency and through the NFL draft. They went out and drafted Cam Scativo, the bruiser from Arizona State, to be the backup to Tracy. I don't remember his first name. The running back for the Giants. I call it the cookies and cream backfield there. I think that they're going to be a really good complement for each other because the Giants, towards the end of the year, really established their identity of the run game. But they go out, they get Russell Wilson, they go out and they get Jameis Winston. They don't feel that they need to draft a quarterback with their third overall pick. Now, the Giants did go back and trade into the first round and select a quarterback. And when I heard them trade into the first round, I thought, hey, they're coming up to get Shadur Sanders. Turns out they traded up to get Mr. Jackson Dart. Now, Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss, drafted in the first round by the Giants. Anthony, let me ask you a question. Do you know what happened the last time the Giants drafted a quarterback from Ole Miss?
No, can't say that I do, brother.
They won 2 Super Bowls. They drafted Eli Manning. And Eli Manning, quarterback, selected in the first round by the New York Giants from Ole Miss, went on to win 2 Super Bowls. So let's see if history repeats itself in that regard. It's a very interesting thing because Jackson Dart, towards pro days and towards the combine, was getting a lot of buzz as a potential first round pick when a lot of people had him in the 3rd round. So that shows you how the pro day, how the combine, how the interviews will always affect how a quarterback is viewed. Now keep that in mind for a little bit later in the show. So before we go on, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the stream, tuning into the show, and always supporting us. If you could go ahead and like the video, share the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Super appreciate it. Drop us a subscribe so you can always get the great content from us as we create more and more. All right, so before we move on to the biggest topic of the NFL draft, I'd like to identify a couple steals in the NFL draft. And I think the biggest steal in the NFL draft goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers went on to select Jack Sawyer from the Ohio State University in the day 3 of the NFL draft. Now, Jack Sawyer, number 33, had the scoop and score against Texas in the college football playoff. Came up huge all throughout his 4 or 5 years at Ohio State. Jack Sawyer was a stalwart on the defensive line. He was an absolute animal every game that they played in. And what really solidified for me that the kid was going to be an NFL player was the Michigan game this past year. And it had nothing to do with what he did on the field. Now, he did have the very, very, very clutch interception when Michigan was driving down the field. I was like, okay, this kid can really ball. I knew he could ball, but I didn't know he could really ball. But after that game, when Michigan went to go plant the flag, Jack Sawyer was ripping it away from him. You're not fucking planting that here. Get out of here. And I said, this kid isn't just in it for getting to the NFL. He's not just in it to collect stats. He's not just in it for his NIL money. This kid is about the program. This kid is about where he's at. And that spoke volumes to me because it showed me that a guy like him who knows he's going to the NFL, who knows he's going to be in a bowl game, who knows that he can solidify his legacy, said, no, it's not about me, it's about the team. And that type of selflessness, that type of team first mentality translates from college to the pros. A kid like Jack Sawyer is going to be successful not just in the game, but he's going to be successful in life because he realizes that, yeah, individual accolades are great. Winning awards is cool. Getting sacks is cool. Getting interceptions is cool. But what can I do to help the program or the team that I'm at? How can I step up and be a leader in these situations and really not just leave my mark as a football player, but also a leader of men, right? Jack Sawyer going to a team such as the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a storied history, who are one of the most prolific franchises in the history of the NFL, going there and learning from guys like Cam Hayward, learning from guys like TJ Watt, is only going to make him a more versatile and dangerous player. Jack Sawyer is absolutely, in my opinion, the best defensive end in the class outside of Abdul Carter. I realize other guys got drafted before him, many rounds before him. But what we have to remember is, just because you're good in college, just because you had a really high completion percentage, just because you had a lot of receiving yards or a lot of interceptions, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate to the NFL. It's a completely different game. The game is sped up 5 times from college to the NFL. If you think that you're going to have the time in the pocket that you had in college, you're mistaken. You're grossly mistaken. These guys are so much quicker in the NFL. They're so much stronger. They're so much faster. They're so much smarter because they're actually playing at the highest level possible. Now, I understand SEC football and Big Ten football. That's a completely different animal in college football, and it's probably the closest to the pros as you're going to get because you know a lot of those guys will be in the NFL one day. It's not really a question of if, but more of a question of when they'll be in the NFL. They're going to be after their redshirt sophomore season? Are they going to be after their junior season? Or are they going to wait till their senior season, right? A guy like Jack Sawyer, who stayed the entire time, who just wanted to get the golden pants for beating Michigan, and he wasn't able to do that. That's just fueling his fire to be able to translate that into the college football playoff and really do well there. And he did that in spades. Jack Sawyer absolutely wrecked the college football playoffs, destroyed teams' dreams, destroyed young men's dreams with that fearsome swim move that he has. And hats off to him for doing what he did and waiting patiently and going to the Steelers. I think that is the absolute steal of the draft. Jack Sawyer is the steal of the NFL draft. He is going to be a perennial All-Pro for years to come. It won't be this year and it won't be next year. He's got to get some seasoning under him. He's got to get a little bit more weight. He's got to bulk up a little bit in the weight room. And he's got to work a little bit on technique. Not rely so much on his physical attributes and start relying more on his natural instincts. But when he does that, that kid's going to be an absolute game wrecker, and I'm absolutely petrified 2-3 years down the line for what he's going to do to the Cleveland Browns and to other offenses around the NFL. Now, another steal of the draft is going to go to Mr. TreVeyon Henderson, who got drafted in the second round by the New England Patriots. Now, TreVeyon Henderson is the closest thing in the NFL draft to Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back for the Detroit Lions. He is a home run threat anytime he touches the ball, rushing or receiving. The problem with TreVeyon Henderson is that he got hurt once or twice in college, and he usually had to split carries in the backfield with Mayan Williams or with Kinshawn Judkins. Now, a lot of people view that as a detriment. I don't personally view that as a detriment. Running backs accrue miles very quickly for how often they touch the football. And it's not just rushing and receiving. It's pass blocking. It's run blocking if you're running out of a dual backfield or if you're running a triple option. Running back shelf lives are very low compared to other positions because of how involved they are in the offense at any given time. A guy like TreVeyon Henderson had to split carries, but was always the number one running back for the Buckeyes. I think that having less carries and less touches is actually good for TreVeyon Henderson because it adds years to his career. In a system in New England where Mike Vrabel has taken over and they have their young franchise quarterback in Drake May, and they have Ramondre Stevenson there, and they went out and got Stephon Diggs, you are going to see TreVeyon Henderson take that Jahmyr Gibbs role, that home run threat, that scamper out of the backfield, take it 40 yards to the house because they're focused on other people on that offense. The Patriots really went and they completely rebuilt their offense through the draft and through free agency and trades, being able to grab these guys to create a more home run style offense. I think that Drake May, the young man out of the University of North Carolina, is going to be just fine at quarterback because they've added these weapons and set him up for success to be able to push the pace down the field and be able to really, really lock in and have options around him at all times. I do wish the Patriots had a tight end, a more high-level tight end than what they have now. I know that they have Hunter Henry, and Hunter Henry did very well last year. He came on very big in a few games for them, and it was really nice to see. But now you're going to see more, I think, of the run game back in New England. And New England really hasn't had a run game for the past couple years. I remember when the law firm, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, was playing there. It was pretty good. LeGarrette Blount was a pretty decent player for him. But the last time I remember the Patriots having that dominant running back, and he wasn't really even dominant anymore, was throwing it back to the mid-2000s when they got Corey Dillon in a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. Now the Patriots have that young running back that they're going to have on a 4-year deal that they can bring along and they can really make their own. TreVeyon Henderson's going very high in dynasty drafts right now. I think he went, in one of the drafts I did, he went the third pick in the first round. People are very high on him, and it's really awesome to see. I like seeing Buckeyes succeed, and I think that TreVeyon Henderson is one of the rookie running backs that is put in the best position to succeed in the NFL draft. And our final steal, before we move on to our final talking point of the evening, is going to be none other than the Cleveland Browns' new RB1, Quinshon Judkins. Quinshon Judkins. I kind of remember when I think of his name, I think of that old World of Warcraft meme when that was in like the mid-2000s when the guy goes, Leroy Jenkins, and then runs in. I think of Quinshon Judkins. That boy is going to be an absolute stud. Running back out of the Ohio State University, transferred to Ohio State from Ole Miss, where he led the SEC in rush yards his sophomore campaign. Quinshon Judkins is kind of the antithesis to TreVeyon Henderson, though. Quinshon Judkins has already accrued quite a bit of miles coming in to the NFL. He played SEC football at Ole Miss and was asked to shoulder the load of the offense for quite a while. SEC football is dominant. SEC football is tough in the trenches and tough in the defensive backfield. And not just corners and safeties, but the linebackers as well. So at that second level, they're very tough as well. Guys like Jihad Campbell, that got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, had Quinshon Judkins' number when he would bust through that first line of defense of the defensive line. He was no worse for wear, though, when he came to Ohio State and acted as that second option to TreVeyon Henderson and dominated the run game to the tune of like 1,060 yards and 11 touchdowns for the Buckeyes, but also had that multi-touchdown, that 3-touchdown performance against the University of Notre Dame to secure the Ohio State Buckeyes a title this past year. And I will always love Quinshon Judkins for what he did for the Ohio State University. I will always love that kid. When we got him, I was ecstatic, but I was even more ecstatic when the Cleveland Browns called his name at number 36. I was sitting at work, and a friend of the show, Joe Streets, was sitting at a desk near me working a deal. My deal had just left, and another friend of the show, Tyler Griffith, was standing next to me. And pick is in. Cleveland Browns select Quinshon Judkins. I leapt out of my seat and just screamed, "Let's go!" And the people Joe were working was like, "What's up with him?" And Joe's like, I think that Tom just got his guy. And Joe was right. Quinshon Judkins becomes the Nick Chubb replacement in Cleveland. Cleveland later went out on day 3 and selected another running back, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, who actually led the SEC this past year in rushing yards. So they got 2 new running backs in Cleveland. Quinshon Judkins, though, is that steal. Now, unfortunately, So, drafting Kinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson, the Browns had a choice to make. They said to Jerome Ford, their running back one last year while Chubb was out, hey, either take a pay cut or we're gonna cut you or trade you. Thinking that Jerome Ford would probably not take the pay cut. Well, Jerome Ford took the pay cut. So now you've got 3 guys that could be RB1 in Cleveland. And where does that leave our Dark Knight, Mr. Nick Chubb, who is still, as of this moment, a free agent? I think that this spells the end of Nick Chubb's time in Cleveland. Unfortunately, I'll always love Nick for what he did for the city, how he embodied being a Cleveland Brown, how he embodied the tough work, the hard-nosed mentality. I'll always love that. I'll always rep my Chubb 24 jersey with pride. If this is the end for Nick Chubb, I'm sad to see him go. But I'm not sad that the Browns manned up and went and got a dominant running back one in Cleveland in Mr. Kinshawn Judkins. I think Judkins is really going to satiate the people that are sad that Chubb left, because Judkins and Chubb have a very similar run style. They can break outside the tackles or they can go between the tackles. They have that breakaway speed. They also are able to catch the football. Kinshawn is the closest thing to Nick Chubb in the draft, in my opinion. A lot of people think Ashton Jeanty, who went number 6 overall to the Las Vegas Raiders, is close to Nick Chubb as well. I see Jeanty as a little bit more shifty, a little bit more DeAndre Swift-ish than Nick Chubb. But there's nothing wrong with moving on. There's nothing wrong with wanting to better your team. And unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, we're not in a position that we can keep those guys around anymore. We need to cut salary. We need to be cognizant of the cap. And we need to make the best moves for the football team. And if Andrew Berry believes that not bringing Nick Chubb back is the best thing for the football team, he has had 3 knee surgeries. He broke his foot last year. It might be time to let an old horse lay down, unfortunately. I hope that it's not the end of Nick Chubb's career, and I hope that one day Nick Chubb will come back and retire as a Cleveland Brown. I never thought I'd see the day where Nick Chubb was not going to be starting in Cleveland as long as he was willing and able. I think he's willing, but I don't think he's able any longer. And there's no shame in that. He gave this franchise everything he had. But now it's time for a guy like Kinshawn to go out there and really dominate for the Browns. It's going to be exciting because now the Browns have 2 young running backs and a semi-young running back in Judkins, Sampson, and Ford, respectively, that can make a 3-headed attack and really attack AFC North defenses. The Browns are a run-first team and play-action team second. So going in there, you are really going to see, I think, Judkins dominate and become the successor to Nick Chubb. So, Nick, if this is the last time we ever see you in a Browns uniform, thank you for everything you did. But Kinshawn, I cannot wait to see you, brother. I'm excited. So, before we get to the last topic of the night, go ahead, like, share, comment, and subscribe on the video, our YouTube channel, and our Facebook so you can continue to get great sports topics every week as Anthony and I bring them to you. I need a drink of water for this one because I'm going to go in, motherfucker. All right. The man of the 3-day man right here. Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur was viewed as the 2nd overall pick up until the NFL draft. And that didn't happen. Shedeur Sanders fell. He fell to the 5th round. And again, I'm not an NFL GM. I'm not an analyst. I'm not a scout. I'm not anything of the sort. And I don't claim to be. I know a little bit about football. I've watched it for 30 years. It's been my favorite sport outside of golf to watch my entire life. I got a real big problem. I've got a real big problem with the dialogue around Shedeur Sanders. Okay, so Shedeur won the Golden Arm Award for the most accurate passer in the nation. He had an impressive stat line, a very impressive stat line. And he goes in the 5th round. And people are crying about it. This is fucking ridiculous. They're blackballing him. They don't want to draft him because of who his dad is. They're racist. They're this, they're that. Well, first of all, I don't think that there's a racist owner or GM in the NFL. The number 1 overall the first 3 picks of the draft were black. They were men of color. 86% of the, and that's an actual number, 86% of the first round was non-Caucasian NFL players. There's not racism involved in this. There's not, we don't want to deal with Dion. There's not, we don't want this, we don't want that. No, what they saw and what every NFL GM saw was empty stats. A man went 13-12 as a starter in 2 seasons in Boulder, Colorado. He played in the Big 12. The Big 12 is not a very tough conference. The Big 12 has West Virginia. It has, who's in the Big 12, Anthony? Let me see. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. They have, well, Oklahoma ain't there anymore because they went to the SEC. Texas Tech, West Virginia, UCF, Kansas State, TCU, Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. This is not a tough conference at all. The Big 12 is one of the most winnable conferences in college football year in and year out. Okay? Now, you can't win the Big 12. You got dog walked by Nebraska, the fucking runt of the litter of the Big 10. You put up 10 points against the University of Nebraska and their true freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who is not a good quarterback. And everyone's saying, well, he had the stats. He had this. He had that. Let me tell you guys something. Everyone's crying about Shedeur falling because he's Dion's kid and they want to make it a race thing, right? People want to make it a race thing about Shedeur. I'm going to put 4 names out there right now. Jason White, Timmy Chang, Colt Brennan, and he's so irrelevant I forgot his name. TCU QB Max Duggan. Max Duggan played for the TCU Horned Frogs and led them to the national title game against Michigan where they got dog walked. Jason White won the Heisman Trophy, was one of the best passers in the history of college football, won the Golden Arm Award twice, rewrote record books at the University of Oklahoma. Timmy Chang and Colt Brennan both played for the University of Hawaii and rewrote the record book for passing yards and for passing touchdowns in a season. All 4 of those guys went undrafted in their respective drafts. All 4 of them. Okay? They had better stats than Shedeur Sanders. They played better competition. They were more prototypical NFL quarterbacks. They went undrafted. And no one bats a fucking eye at that. But when it's Shedeur Sanders and his daddy and Travis Hunter, it's a problem. Just because you have decent stats in the NFL or in college does not mean you will be a good quarterback in the NFL. You know the biggest knock on Shedeur Sanders? Shedeur Sanders took a lot of sacks because he holds onto the ball too fucking long. Okay? If he holds onto the ball too long in the Big 12, Do you think he's going to magically be able to have a quicker release in the NFL when there are guys that are 5 times faster than 10 times faster than he played in college going up against him? Do you really think that's going to get coached out of him? Do you really think that Shedeur Sanders can actually make an impact on an NFL team when he couldn't even make an impact outside of what his dad was saying in college? No. I don't have a problem with Shedeur Sanders. I quite liked watching him play. When he did make a play, he was electric. But the problem is that so many of these people want to make it a race thing or a Deion thing. They forget to look at the bigger picture. There's a larger picture involved in all of this. The NFL is a lot like life. Everything is earned. Nothing is given to you. Just because you were a halfway decent stats-wise in college doesn't mean you earned the right to be the number 2 or number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Jackson, people were saying it was racist that the Giants traded up and picked Jackson Dart instead of Shedeur Sanders. No, it's not racist. It's that Jackson Dart played a higher level of competition in the SEC and actually completed passes and threw touchdowns to more than just his buddy. And Shedeur's buddy was Travis Hunter. There was a whole fucking offense tailor-made to make Shedeur succeed, and he couldn't succeed in it. What does that tell you? Do people really not get that just because he has a good smile and because he flashes his watch around and because he's got the swagger and, as the kids say, the riz, that was going to make him a good NFL quarterback? I disagree completely. I didn't see one thing in the history of Shedeur's career that made me believe that he would be a good NFL player. And I sit here and I listen to people and I read on Facebook what these people say. There's people in Ashtabula. Oh man, this is ridiculous. Shedeur Sanders deserved to be drafted here. No, he didn't deserve anything. None of these kids deserve anything. It's all what they put into it. And you want to know something that Shedeur Sanders put into it? He went in to an interview with the New York Giants completely unprepared for the interview. A fucking interview. Do you know, Anthony, let me ask you a question, and I want you to be objective here. You own a business. Now, you have a very successful business, but I would think that you would agree that you don't bring in as much revenue as, say, the New York Giants, correct?
Yeah, I'm close, but not quite.
You're close, but not quite. All right. So if Steve Jobs, his grandson, came in and said, hey, here's my resume, right? And you said, okay, let me read it and I'll give you a buzz. You call him in a couple days and he shows up. And he's completely unprepared for the interview. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He tells you what he wants to do. He tells you why his way's better. And he disregards reading your manual on how you do things. Are you going to hire him?
Probably not. Not if he's coming in and, if he's not prepared and he just is, shooting from the hip and really doesn't make any sense and he's trying to change things that, like I said, don't make sense, then no.
Okay. So it doesn't matter that he comes from a famous family, right?
It definitely has some weight to it.
Okay.
But the overall objective is to succeed.
Right, because you're not going to make money on him working there. You're going to make money on the results he produces, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why is it okay for you to not hire him because he's not prepared, but people think it's racist that the Giants didn't draft him because he's Deion's kid? Do you see what my line of question is there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you I know that you're not really a college football guy, but I would think that maybe you've seen a clip or two of Shedeur Sanders, correct?
Yes.
Did you think he was particularly like next level, or did you just think, okay, I mean, he's all right?
Yeah, average.
Average, right? Do you think average warrants being the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft, where there's 640,000 high school players, 200,000 college players, and less than 10,000 NFL players? Do you think that average warrants being selected if there's so many other guys that want it more?
No, especially whenever. So I'll just give you my take real quick. So
Yeah, I want that's what I want. I was trying to get you to.
So here's my take on it.
Yeah.
My opinion on why he didn't get drafted in a higher position is because there's a lot of, I mean, if you look at Deion's interviews prior to the draft, he made it very clear that basically he was going to pull the strings that he could and basically force whatever team to make the changes that he thought was necessary. But he's not the GM. He's not the coach. He is a parent of a player, of
Correct.
a potential player. And when you have somebody like that who's kind of trying to squeeze their way into the process that doesn't fit in the process, that sounds like it comes with a lot of headaches to me.
Correct. And see, the thing also is these guys, NFL teams, are professionals, right? They, like the guys that run the front office, the guys that are on the coaching staff, the guys who own the team, they're professionals. They've dealt with drama before. You know what I mean? Like, and when you have a guy like Deion Sanders, it's pretty easy to shut him up. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, Deion, we hear you, and then just move on, right? Like, you can acknowledge, you can listen, you can acknowledge, and then ultimately what you do is on you as an NFL team. I would lose respect for an organization if they catered to Deion's wants and needs. Now, a lot of people are comparing the situation that you brought up, Anthony, like how Deion said, oh, he's pulling strings, this kind of thing. A lot of people compared that to the Mannings back in the 2004 NFL draft when Eli said, I'm not playing for the Chargers. I don't like their organization. If they draft me number 1 overall, I will not report. Right? That wasn't Eli Manning's dad that was saying that. That was Eli and his camp. Arch never said that. Archie never said that. Archie was so hands-off with his kids in college. He would wear big hats. He'd wear big coats and stuff so he wouldn't be seen. He wanted those boys to make their own legacy. When Arch, his grandson, was being recruited, he didn't even partake in anything because he wants Arch to forge his own path. There is a difference. And I understand wanting more for your family. Deion never played quarterback. He played receiver and corner. Deion knows the game. He's one of the most prolific defensive backs to ever play football. He's one of the best players to ever step on the field. But that doesn't give him a right to dictate what an NFL team does. There's headaches that come with that. But that's not why Shedeur fell. Shedeur fell because he's exactly average at what he did, and he acted like he was more than he was. Now, I have no problem with swagger. I have no problem with confidence. I have no problem. Like, I'm not the best car salesman in the world. But when I go into the dealership every day, I think that I am. And it helps me make deals because I have to believe it in order for other people to believe it. But it also comes with conviction. It also comes with backing yourself up. Shedeur did nothing to back himself up, boasting a 13-12 record, boasting a blowout loss in the Alamo Bowl to BYU, boasting the highest sack rate in college, boasting the highest held ball percentage in college. If people said if he didn't get drafted, it was bad for the league. But then those same people were bitching that he went to the Cleveland Browns. So what one is it? Do you not want him to play in the NFL now because he went to the Browns? What is it? Or is it he's too good to go to the Cleveland Browns? What makes you think he's too good? There's nothing that we saw that indicates that he's too good for anything.
Well, wasn't there an interview where Dion said something along the lines of who he won't let him play for?
And Cleveland was on that list.
It was implied, yeah.
It was implied that Cleveland was on that list. And in a twist of irony, Cleveland selected him. And I really hope the kid does well. I hope he does well. I hope he comes in and rectifies his shortcomings. I hope he comes in and works hard and becomes a leader and does all these things. I really do, because I don't want the Browns to be bad forever. But if you're gonna do this and you want this guy drafted and you want this guy to succeed, then why nitpick everything about it after the fact? Why nitpick that he went to the Browns? Did you want him to go to the fucking Patriots and be the backup to Drake May? Did you want him to go to the Steelers, where they're going to be absolutely ruthless as a fan base toward him the first time he makes a mistake? Did you want him to go to the Rams and back up Matthew Stafford and not work in that offense? What did you guys want? What indicates that he could come in and take Dak Prescott's spot right now? What indicates that he could go to the Bills and take Josh Allen's spot? There is nothing there that identifies him as a true Alpha 1 quarterback right now. The Browns even drafted a quarterback before Shedeur Sanders. They drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, which blew my fucking mind that they drafted Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback from the University of Oregon. Now, Dylan Gabriel is the all-time leading passer for college. If you guys want to go on stats and all of that, Dylan Gabriel should have been the number 1 pick. Where was being pissed off that Will Howard was drafted in the 6th round by the Steelers? Will Howard was literally just as accurate as Shedeur Sanders and had a better college win record and won a national title as the quarterback of the Buckeyes, playing tougher competition. Why was no one pissed that Will Howard dropped that far? Why was no one pissed that Quinn Ewers, who was the number 1 recruit in high school, went to Ohio State, transferred to Texas, and led Texas to the playoffs twice? The semifinals of the national title as well. Had it won until Jack Sawyer stripped the ball from him. Why was no one pissed that he went in the 7th round? Why are we writing our own narrative on a quarterback that hasn't done anything yet and making it that it was a slight towards him? Nothing was a slight towards Shedeur Sanders. He got exactly what he got coming to him. If you're average, you're not going to be selected high. If you're above average, you have a chance to not be selected high. If you're excellent, you have a chance to not be selected high. It's all about your interview. It's all about your pro day. It's all about your combine. It's all about what you did in college. He didn't win. He didn't win a big game. And if you are going to be asked to lead a franchise in the NFL, every game on that 17-game schedule is a big game. It's the national championship in college football 17 weeks in a row. That's how big the stakes are every week. Shedeur crumbled under pressure time and time again. Shedeur held on to the football too long time and time again. I often have wondered, if Shedeur didn't have Travis Hunter, what would his stats have looked like? Would he have been the most accurate quarterback in college football? Would he have won 13 games in 2 seasons? Guys, 13 wins in 2 seasons is 6.5 wins per year. That means you're hardly bowl eligible. You are hardly bowl eligible. And bowl eligibility is the biggest thing in college football. If you don't go out there and win, you will not go where you might want to go. Cam Ward won again and again and again in college. He never won a national title, and he took himself out of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but Cam Ward had a winning record everywhere he went, and not just by one game. He had a very good win percentage in college. Will Howard had a very good win percentage in college, but he dropped to the 6th round. Jackson Dart had an awesome win percent in college in the second toughest conference in college football, the SEC. We cannot sit here and act like people were slighting Shedeur Sanders by not picking him, because there's so many inadequacies in his game that prevent him at this point from being who a lot of people believe him to be. You don't like Shedeur. You like his dad. You don't like that Shedeur is flashy and everything. You like that he's Deion's son. He's a carbon copy. And that's great. Deion's an entertaining human being. Deion's a great person. Deion's changed countless lives, including his sons. Multiple sons. His son Shiloh got signed as an undrafted free agent by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I didn't think should have happened, but it did. But it's great. Like, Deion has made an impact outside of football. He's impacted young men's lives for the better for years to come. But Shedeur Sanders is not what everyone's looking at through their rose-colored lenses. He's not his dad. He's never going to be his dad. He's going to be an NFL quarterback that I hope succeeds. But this whole diatribe around him that it was racist or that it was a blackball or anything of the sort is patently false, ladies and gentlemen. You know who got blackballed? Colin Kaepernick. Ray Rice got blackballed. Justin Tucker's about to get fucking blackballed after he gets rid of his blue balls, if you know what I mean. See what I did there? Deshaun Watson didn't get blackballed, but he probably fucking should have. The NFL doesn't blackball guys who are going to be successful and make them money. Kaepernick was going to make them money, but it was going to be for the wrong reasons. And that's a story for another time. Like, I know Anthony and I probably have very different views on Colin Kaepernick's situation. But you can't tell me that if you trotted Shedeur Sanders out and you trotted out Jackson Dart, that Jackson Dart wouldn't show you a lot more than Shedeur Sanders has shown you. And I think that you guys are all entitled to your opinions. And you're all entitled to believing so strongly and steadfastly that you believe that this guy was wronged. But he wasn't wronged. The NFL is about making money and putting players in the best position to win and putting themselves in the best position to win. And 32 teams acknowledged that Shedeur Sanders was not going to be that guy worthy of a first-round pick. It's not racist. It's not blackball. It's none of those things. It's business. Business as usual. And I hope that kid comes out, and I hope if he's the week 1 starter, he trots out there and throws 3 tutties, and him and Kinshawn Judkins become the guys in Cleveland for the next 15 years. And they lead us to titles. I would love that. I would love that. But I don't think anything unsightly or wrong was going on behind the scenes with Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur would have taken it a bit more seriously and prepared for his interview and didn't go in there and not read a playbook and not read things and not apply himself like it was an actual job interview, because it was an actual job interview. A guy like Brian Dable, who just endured years of Daniel Jones, probably was salivating to have that kid. But when he saw that he wasn't prepared and that he wasn't taking it seriously, how can you pick a guy at 3 that if he's not taking it serious now, he's not going to take it serious in October? We saw that with Johnny Manziel. And Johnny Manziel was a hell of a lot more talented than Shedeur Sanders was. Johnny was out of the league in 2 years. And, you know, it just blows my mind that we have to have a conversation like this around a 5th round pick. But that's the world that we live in because everyone's a social justice warrior and everyone cries foul when something doesn't go the way that they think that it should go. And the NFL owners are oppressing excellence and stuff. No, they're not. NFL owners are trying to make money and win fucking football games. And if they thought that this guy would help them do it, he would have been on the fucking team in the first round. I promise you that. I promise you that. But the circus always isn't worth what comes with it. I can deal with a circus if you win me 5 Super Bowls. I can't deal with a circus if you're an unproven commodity. I can't do it. And I respect that. I respect how those teams operated. Now, again, I hope that kid comes out and I hope he does great. Because you know what? He worked his tail off to get there. And he needs to work his tail off even more. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that want to take entitlement over results. And these are the same people day in and day out that talk about how bad they've been wronged by everyone and never take responsibility for their own actions. These are those same people that are saying Shedeur Sanders was wronged. These are the same people that go through every day blaming someone else for their problems and not proactively trying to fix their own. Shedeur Sanders, I will say, handled everything with humility and grace. He came out there. He's been in Cleveland. He said he's trying to promote positivity for the children in Cleveland and give them someone to look up to. I admire that. Ingratiate yourself to our community. Ingratiate yourselves with the fans of the Cleveland fan base. We're going to love you, man. We're going to love you. Because you're a quarterback, you're a player on our team. We're going to love you. If there's one thing that Browns fans do, they love their players. They love their players, man. And I hope that you come out and you tear the world on fire, Bubba. I really hope you do. But as of right now, I don't see it. And 32 general managers didn't see it. And my opinion doesn't really fucking matter. Just to whomever's listening, I hope it matters a little bit. That's why I do it. But let's hope that we can pump the brakes on the racism talk and the blackballing talk and just let the kid be a kid and become a professional. So before I get out of here tonight, Anthony, you got anything for me? You got anything for me, bub?
No, sir.
No? Well, hey, we had a great show tonight. I'm thankful that you were able to put this together for us tonight, and top notch as always. I appreciate doing this with you, brother. I appreciate you guys for all tuning in and staying with us. Thank you very much. You guys have all made the cut. We'll be in here next week. We're going to be talking a little NBA playoffs and a little bit of MLB baseball. Yeah. You ready to talk playoff basketball, Anth?
Oh, yeah.
I can't. Hey, can you make me a deal?
Maybe.
I want you to watch games this week, and I want you to have conversations with me next week.
Okay.
About it. All right?
Yeah, I can talk basketball.
All right, so Anthony's going to be back talking next week. He probably won't be in front of the camera, but we're going to be back and forth. Kind of like a Joe and Jamie situation.
I might throw a camera up on me. We'll see.
Hell yeah, boy. All right, you guys have all made the cut. I hope you have a great week. Love yourself, take care of yourself, and just remember, you are as bad as you fucking want to be, baby. Praise God. Have a great night.